I had some time to think about that answer while Sandhya was answering your question. And I think for me, it's 5 reasons that that's the first reason, Nikhil Advani. I was looking forward to working with him, and this is not the first time I've asked him what he's doing next. I've asked him for many years, but this is the first time he answered, okay, I'm doing something that I can offer you. So he was the first reason why I wanted to do this show. Secondly, he also told me it was for Star TV. I have a long relationship with Star. I worked for them for 8 years as an employee, actually. Yeah, I was with Channel V for 8 years, so I hosted shows for Star India for a very long time. And I interviewed Nikhil Advani for his first film, Kal Ho Na Ho. I did an interview with him. So that's the second reason. Thirdly, I think just the concept of the show, story bahut hi acha tha. I mean, he narrated a little bit. I had not seen Homeland. I had not seen Haath of M. I didn't know anything about the show. I just knew Homeland was a popular show and there was some reference to that. But Nikhil clearly told me that Homeland nahi hai bhai. It's Haath of M. And that's the format we are going to follow. And so I saw Haath of M. And I fell in love with the show that it was and the characters that it had and all the relationships and the layers it had to it. And though in the front it looks like it's about two prisoners who come back after 17 years, but I think it's about a lot more. Their wives, their families, them coming back. There's so many things that can be told in all this, in this big frame of story. Then, of course, the character, Sardar Singh, that I play is extremely complex. You may have noticed in the trailer of Sardar Singh. In fact, I saw it today for the first time and been playing him for so many days, as Nikhil pointed out earlier, 106 days that we've been shooting. I think I've shot for about 80 or 90 days out of those 106 days. And you kind of forget what you did in the first few days because so much is going on. And to see that trailer was like, wow, he's actually quite intense and really complex character. And that's what really, one of the reasons also that drew me to him and how Nikhil had thought of him. And it's funny because, I mean, even this morning, Nikhil and I were shooting and I took him to the side and I said, please tell me now where's the graph going because I want to do something in this scene. So as we are shooting also, Nikhil is really flexible and he lets you get in things into the character and also has ideas for the character and helps you really build it. So I think the character is another reason. And last but not the least, I think, is the Amrita Puri, Sandhya Mridul and Satyadeep Mishra and all the other supporting cast also. I think we have some of our family, and Manish also, of course. I can't forget him. Manish has always been a favorite of mine, and I was really happy to know that he was on this show. We have worked together before, Manish and I. And the cast is, I mean, when Nikhil told me that these are the people I'm thinking of casting, and I was like, wow, this show really is something special. I'll be foolish to say no. And lucky for me, I had Nikhil for 5 hours in the car with me, and we also got lost in Jodhpur, trying to buy some mithai. तो उसमें मैंने पकड़ लिया, सर मैं आ रहा हूँ बम्बई, मैं ऑडिशन दूंगा, आप चाहे तो, पर मैं शो करने वाला हूँ. So he had no choice.
I just want to add that a big reason for what you're going to see very soon is the 5 people who are sitting over here. Funnily, we all knew each other than work. And we had all worked with each other, or we had wanted to work with each other. And there are lots of people who are sitting over there who are also the reason. But we enjoy coming to work, and that is something that you will see when you watch the show. It's great fun, and it's being able to discover. We also come back, and just I think somebody asked us that, "Jo aaj ho raha hai," you know, we come back and we say, "Hey, did you see the news? This happened." And we said, yeah, in episode 80, same thing is going to happen over here. And we've written it. So, I mean, to answer the question about what's happening present, and I have 3 of my 4 writers sitting at the back, Asim Arora, Anirudh Goa, Gaurav Chawla, and Isha, she's not here. And every day, we look at the newspaper and we call each other up, and we have this WhatsApp group, and we say, somebody is scripting this for us. We don't even know how it's happening. It's just happening. You know, it's uncanny. It's unfortunate, but it's uncanny.
Good evening, Nikhil. Samina from Asian Age Tech and Chronicle. Fabulous cast and flawless casting. you always had these actors in mind when their respective characters were sketched?
Yes, very much. I mean, I've been very lucky that I made 5 phone calls and all 5 people decided to say yes. Satyadeep was in Goa when I met him, and I said, Satyadeep, this is that. And Satyadeep, being this consummate actor, said that, okay, let me see Hath of him, then I'll get back to you. Purab, he cornered me in a car, he locked the car and said, कि मैं करने वाला हूँ कुछ भी. We were coming back from the shoot of Airlift, and he said, मैं करने वाला हूँ कुछ भी हो जाए ये करने वाला हूँ. Amrita, I wanted to work with. The minute I saw her and Aisha, I said that, you know, this is this, and we've been trying to work for what, 2 years, 3 years? Yeah, we've been just trying to work together, trying to find something or the other to work with her. Sandhya is, Sandhya, I mean, why would you say, if Sandhya says yes to doing doing a role in your film or in your show, you know you're doing something right? Because as the gentleman pointed out, she's extremely choosy, so something right is happening. And well, Manish is my oldest friend in the industry. We used to sit outside Sudhir Mishra's office and we used to discuss Kanpur ka chai better hai ya Banaras ka chai better hai. None of us had work. And we said one day we'll work together, yeah. And so we've just waited for that one correct story, project, something that we can, you know, both get our hands together. Because, I mean, he's, in my opinion, one of the most underrated actors in this industry. And we should just be very, very lucky that he said yes to us.
Hello, this is Siraj Sayyed. I'm a media critic. The question is addressed to the two ladies.
In this television show,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
My apologies.
I know it's easy with that trailer to mistake it, but I think that what you brought up is the dilemma that both wives in this show faced. Of course, when we start off with the first episode, you see very quickly both their husbands return. And then through the show, as the show carries on, you see what their journey was, what their battles were. But that's something very real, because with a period of 17 years, you're dealing with a whole series of emotions and an entire graph of emotions. And my character, for instance, got married very young at 17, and on her wedding night, her husband was called to war and then declared missing in action. So here's a girl who's never really met her husband and got to know her husband, but then chooses, and what's very important is that she chooses to wait for 17 years with the hope every day. As Nikhil said, there's hope every day that maybe he will return. And that's the hope that you carry forward with. And at some point, maybe you stop believing that he will return, but you still carry on. And then suddenly, after 17 years, he does return. And then what? And that's what's even more interesting, is that how do you pick up from then on?
Maybe Sandhya can add to that. Is it easier to face closure? For example, when you learn that somebody has really died, it'll be a big shock. But, you know, to live with the fact that somebody is missing for 17 years.
The question here is, do you ever really move on?
That's the point, yeah.
No. I don't think you ever really move on from it. I think you live in limbo. I think that in terms of Nazneen's character, even if she were to love someone else, there would be a part of her that is committed and waiting, hoping for some closure. Even if it means someday she tells herself that he's dead and she needs to move on, she does that. But the fact of the matter is, you never really move on. It's all limbo. And when they come back, and what they bring back with them is something that you're not prepared for, you know? And so there's no staying in and there's no getting out. And I think the only word that I can say again and again for my character and maybe for Harleen's, and my character a bit more because she gets herself into a mess without meaning to, because there is somebody else. But now she feels like a cheat, you know? And how right is it and how fair is it on her? It's not, because she never really moved on. And her love may be one thing, but her duty is another. So there's that dilemma. So it's too many things. It's too many things. But all I can say is you never move on.
Yeah, thank you.
All the patriotism is going to come out. And
Also in the army or whatever, and been away from loved ones for 17 years. And the whole issue is that you've been away for 17 years, you've hoped and prayed that one day you're going to come back, and you come back and life is not what you thought it would be. And I think to that extent, the emotion is very universal. You know, it doesn't really matter that I was an Air Force officer the day I got captured. So I think for me personally, the work that has gone into this role has been in that space. I mean, the frills, of course, you come back after 17 years, you should look like somebody who's been in a prison for 17 years, you know, that sort of stuff, but that apart. But I think the hard work has gone in terms of just getting the sort of, the range of, you know, your emotional palette, right, for the sort of situation that you find yourself in. At least that's for me. I think that's what I've worked harder on for my part. But
I think Satyadeep has pretty much summed it up. How do you put yourself in somebody's shoes for something that you have never experienced and probably never will? You know, it's impossible. Even if you speak with them or whatever, the fact of the matter is, how do you feel that? And the only way I figured, which I always figure in everything that I do, is to stay as honest as possible, to stay as committed to that character as possible. And in fact, I often tell Nikhil that I'm going to go crazy after this show because, you know, I go back home and I can't shed Nazneen. You know, I mean, it's crazy. I go back and I really don't know how to lose this woman. And it just kind of, and every day I feel the pain just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. And somehow, you keep tapping in deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's the only thing you can do. And the good thing is that we have Nikhil Advani, who's so averse to bullshit. You know, he just calls it. He calls it. If you've done something, you know, and I like that. He pushes you so much. He pushes you so damn much without really pushing you. But because he's such an achiever, he's constantly making you go in deeper. He never really tells me how to act on set, but he'll come and tell me that one thing that'll just hit the spot. And that's when you need someone like that, you know. So he makes sure that you're not hamming. You know, he makes sure that you're not taking the easy way out, because this man never takes the easy way out. So, you know, all of that also really works. And I have actors who are honest. And that's a huge plus. When your co-actors are honest, when you have writers who are writing it the way one must feel it, you know, ultimately it's a TV show. You know, ultimately it's something that you guys are going to see, and it takes a whole damn team to do it. You know, so it's all there. And all we can do is just stay committed to what the complete honest portrayal of putting yourself in that person's shoes as much as possible every single day, going deeper into that person that you're playing. And that's all I can say. I know it sounds like a whole lot of bullshit, but it's the truth.
I just want to, I mean, I'm not the cast, but I'll still answer that question. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question about them meeting wives who have suffered the same fate, or, I mean, they couldn't have met POWs because then you're not a POW. So you're not missing in action, sorry. So basically, I made it a point to tell them, A, that I don't want you guys to be reading a lot of the stuff, because then it starts becoming imitative. Then you want to live other people's lives. We are very fortunate, like I said earlier, we've got very good writers on the show. Asim and Anirudh, who've been with me on writing the show from the very beginning, read so much actually, that each scene that we get and each moment that we have in the show is somewhere or the other reflecting what they've read. And they've read a lot about there are 54 POWs right now since 1971. And it sounds very little, 54, because that's reported. We don't know the others. And this is a country that does not actually have, you don't have the ability to go and say something, right? And to answer your question, sir, about closure, in fact, one of the stories we read was about this wife who said that for the first period, you are just hoping that the men don't come with the news that he's died. You're just praying every single day that he's not died. But after a while, you pray that they come. And you're just praying that you get the news that they've died. Right? So that's what you're saying. Everybody is actually just waiting for something that is going to allow them to start living again. Otherwise, you're just living, you know, in a kind of limbo. So the most important thing that Sandhya said, which is that the only thing we